Very good. I'm just gonna get this started. Yes, now I'm here. Okay, this video is about chapter 35. So it's about loans and it's about interest. And the focus of this is that the video will be approximately 10 to 15 minutes. So keep tight, and the rest you'll of course learn in class, of course. A company has the opportunity to choose from various options for foreign financing. Foreign financing, that's of course when the company goes out into the market and say we want a loan of some type. The costs are different depending on the choice of funding sources. So of course it's cheaper to take a loan of realkredit than it is to take a bank loan, but it's also more complicated, etc. Some type of foreign capital are interest free. This applies, for example, for debt for suppliers and tax. So, for example, if you're a company and you have sold something to a supplier and there's a credit period of 15 days, 30 days, 90 days, etc., in that period of time, you're actually not paying any interest and you're actually able to sell the product while you haven't paid for it. So that's quite fantastic. But of course it goes both ways, because most companies also have agreements with other suppliers, etc. No company has credit. Credit is an essential part of running a business. However, this is not possible as exclusively, so it's not as from the sources. However, this is not possible as these sources only fund according to some clear guidance. The company must therefore also seek finances from sources of loan of interest bearing. That means that of course it's not possible to just run a company on credit period and short-term loans, which is actually what credits are. Therefore, it's more important that they have multiple sourcing. We move on. Loans are characterized by a number of concepts, so the benefits, interest, and repayment. Furthermore, there are differences in how different loans are settled. For example, it may be an annuity loan or a standing loan. Understanding the concept, it's necessary to evaluate the different financing alternatives. And that's pretty much also what we're going to focus on in this chapter. Settlement of loan. Long-term loans can be settled in various ways, also called amortization principles. The individual form of settlement differ from each other in that interest and repayment develop differently over the terms of the loan. Thus, the benefit, which included interest and installments, also develop differently. Finally, the outstanding debt will also develop differently as a remaining debt decreases with the size of repayment also focusing and changing. So in the beginning, that means that in the beginning you typically pay a larger portion of interest on your loan, and then over time you pay more. Your repayment of the loan will increase. An annuity loan is a loan where the service is constant through the loan life of the loan. An annuity loan is characterized by the same amount being paid in payments through the life of the loan. That means that, for example, if you buy an iPhone, it's 220 kroner over 24 months, or 250 kroner over 24 months, and that's the same amount you pay each month. And when you have paid that, done. Okay. The first installment loans will long-term materials mainly compromise interest, since outstanding debt will initially be relatively large, leaving only small repayments. The outstanding debt will therefore fall very slowly at the beginning of the term of the loan. It will, at the end of the loan, it will change. So over a period of time, you suddenly start paying less in interest and more in repayments. An annuity loan is where the service is constant throughout the life of the loan. Okay, so it's illustrated here from the Danish book, where we have, like we see over the period of time, the repayment and the interest actually changes course. So the further you get in the repayment plan, the more you will pay off the loan. But then, of course, it will also have less in interest, meaning that you'll be in a situation where you won't necessarily pay that much in interest, and that will, of course, also differ in what tax what what positive tax effects this can have on your economics. A standing loan is also called a fixed loan. It's characterized by the fact that throughout the term of the loan, interest is only paid, since the loan is only fully repaid at the end of the loan. As the residual debt is thus constant through the term of the loan, interest must be paid at the same residual debt, and the interest amount will therefore constitute a constant amount. As mentioned, the loan must only be repaid at maturity. The repayment, at the other hand, is large, since the entire loan must be repaid at once. In Danish terms, you can think of this as afdragsfrit loan. That means that over 10 years you don't pay any afdrag, but suddenly you actually have to pay the whole amount. A standing loan is a loan where interest is only paid during the term. The debt is repaid at the time of the installment. So you also see it here. Interest, and suddenly everything is repaid. Capital expenditure loan. A capital expenditure loan is equal to loan for acquisition of fixed assets, typically loans granted by the bank, mainly provided by energy loans, where the debt is reduced constantly. The interest loan is usually variable, but fixed interest can be agreed on. Over the time where we have had very, very low interest, it can have been a good idea for companies to focus on fixed loans, fixed interest, because the interest has been so low. But mostly companies agree on variable loans, since that's most beneficial for them over long term. Loan mortgage from those that with fixed property. Mortgage banks in Denmark, Totalkredit, Nordea Kredit, Nykredit, which is also part of the Totalkredit, of course, Realkredit Denmark, 3F Kredit. Characteristic for mortgage loan: only loans with security of fixed property, meaning that, for example, for a house you have to put 80% down. For a summer house it's 75% you can borrow with the Realkredit. So typically it's beneficial, but it also provides better interest rates than a bank could ever offer. Joint and several liability composition of reserves in a mortgage bank. Leasing is another type of financing. Between rent and loan of financing. A lot of people have privately been starting to use the benefits of leasing, since, for example, you can get a new car every year, you can get a new car every third year, and you don't have the responsibility of keeping the car, services included, etc. But then again, you don't own the car, so when you deliver it back, you don't get any money. For example, if you own a car, you probably would be able to sell the car back and then continue. Leaser has ownership of a leased object, so that means that they have the right to lease a product for example, 36 months, where the product is owned by them, but then afterwards, no. And then leasee has the right to use the leased product. Operating leasing, leasee have obligations to maintain the assets, so meaning, for example, also if it's a business and you lease a machine. We've talked about this in the investment, where it's an opportunity to lease a machine instead of buying a machine. You can lease the machine that you lease, you can use for that period of time, but it's typically more expensive. Lease have the obligation of risk on the assets, so that that means, of course, so in a way, they have to pay. Leasee pays for the necessary insurance and covered must cost in relation to repairment. Yes. So for this leasing deal, financial leasing a company as a producer or seller purchase an asset and lease it to use of a given asset. So if you have you can run a corporation, you can run a company where this is actually the focus. Leasee has obligations to maintain the asset. Leasee has the obligation of risk of the asset, meaning leasee pays for necessary insurance and cover most of the cost in relation to repairment. Then there's also cash credit, kassekredit. Used by companies to finance daily operations, only used by need, as the need of the financing of the company often is fluctuating. An agreement is made concerning the maximum overdraft. The difference between the maximum and the deposable amount of cash credit is called the available cash credit. If the maximum is not kept, the maximum is renegotiated or overdraft or cash credit is reduced. Cost of cash credit is composed in two elements: an interest of the debt of the cash credit. A commission is agreed on the maximum of the cash credit. Supplier credit, a flexible type of financing, is adjusted to the company's purchase of a good. Those with long supplier credits, higher prices for the goods than the cost of the supplier short supplier credit, and might lose the benefit of the cash credit. Another type of financing is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a way in which new firms can raise money to a project through gathering financial support from a larger group of donors. Crowdfunding is also known as network financing. Capital from crowdfunding is described as intermediary between equity and debt. So in a way, you have an idea for a product, you sell it out, send it out to Indiegogo or Kickstarter, etc., and people start buying into it. But then again, people expect when the product is done, they expect the product, so it's not free money. It's kind of a short-term debt, because you are obliged to, when you receive money for a product, receive money to start up an operation, you're obliged to make that. If effective interest on an amortization loan, a loan with a fixed payment every term for the entire duration of the loan. If we see here, when the effective interest rate on a bullet loan has been calculated, it's done in the same way as the annuity loan. Proceeds of the loan, granting, establishment of cash flow, effective interest rate. When establishment of cash flow is found in the loan, it's given, annuity paid after the agreed period of the original amount, plus the interest is paid. So you have this period of time, and then you have how much you actually are going to pay in the total. So the company, an example, the company Bolero AS intends to lease a machine whose life price is 1.2 million. The machine is expected to have a lifespan of 4 years, after which it's estimated to be of no value. If the machine is leased, an annual lease fee on 35%, the machine list price must be paid. Based on the information, the following calculations can be made. So annual lease of a machine, 35% of this is this. So you see, of course, the cash flow here. Yes. Effective interest on an overdraft facility, a very flexible form of financing, as the debt of the overdraft facility can be adapted at any time of the company's current financing need. Effective interest per quarter, so this is the interest, this is the equation you can use for that. Effective interest of supply credit, this is also here, you have this effective interest per payment, and you have effective interest per year. Also these equations you will use for this. When a company wishes to do an investment, it must determine what the most appropriate a choice of loan based on the loan's opportunity effective interest. 2, choose a loan based on the cash flow of the different loan. The effective interest show an expense if the loan is based on all expenses. The cash flow takes into regard the balance between payments, periods, and return of the loan. So they have to put it up against each other and see, okay, what's most favorable for us in this situation. And it depends on, you put in all considerations of the financing and investment and the interest and the etc. Yes. So choosing a loan based on the effective rate. Example, 1 million kroner in DKK loan, annuity loan, same repayment of 240,000, 1.2 repayment, standing loan 8% interest, 1.4 repayment. So here you see this. You see these two compared, and you see standing loan is best considering liquidity, annuity loan is best considering effective rate. Choose annuity loan if the company has the liquidity. So in a way, your company, to take this decision, go in, look into the cash flow statement, see what the liquidity is, and then you can decide if you want to choose the annuity loan or the standing loan. Thank you.